Okay, just found this. Um, Serena fallout. Male tennis players punished more than women. Now, I'm going to combine this with my thoughts of what should really happen with um, tennis as it is with the men and the women, because I heard from somewhere else that there is an underlying issue of sexism in the tennis world against women, and there is a very simple solution, and that is to split the men's game and the women's game for them to both separately either go their ways completely, or they can still be under the one umbrella, but the women's game is run completely by women. No men should be in the world of female tennis at all. Doesn't matter, not even a cleaner. Nobody. The lines women should be, the officials should be women. The ball should be ball girls. Even the grounds, dealing with the grounds, should all be women. Should all be trained. Okay, that way there will be no instances of sexism for women. The same thing with the men. The men will be administered separately, and the finance, you could say, the advertising, I would be quite happy for it to be split. So the men's advertising is equal to the women's. That way, there's no sort of saying, "Oh, the women get more, men get more advertising because of men." No, split the two. So if the tennis WTA gets, I don't know, say 20 billion or whatever it is, and then it puts 1 billion in advertising, 500 million will go to women, 500 million will go to men, and they will administer their advertising themselves. They will fight for their own um, TV, paper rights, radio, you name it, amongst themselves. So the women can use their money how they want to use it, the men can use their money how they want to use it, and they can promote it. That way, the two will be separated, and there won't be any sort of men infringing on women's issues or causing women any problem, and women will be able to get on supposedly without any infringement from men. I think that would be better for women. Then whoever goes to women's tennis goes and watches it. Whoever goes to men's tennis goes and watches it. And I think that should go across the whole of Wimbledon. The women's game should start a week before the men's, or it can be a week after the men's. So the men's can start first, they get out of the way, and then the women can then start after that. This should be applied to all of the women's tennis. I think that would help with the supposed sexism. So there's no umpires can administer the women's game, because obviously men, no matter what you do, you are automatically sexist if you're administrating the women's game. That's it, finish. So I think that is a solution. People should look at that. I might do another separate thing about that later on and see what happens. Right, so the Serena fallout. Male tennis players punished more than women. Oh, really? I thought the inference from Serena that men don't get punished at all. They do far, far worse and they never get punished. That's what she said. That was her words. Let's go. Let's continue. Male tennis players are almost 3 times more likely to be fined for losing their temper and smashing rackets than their female counterparts, the New York Times reported yesterday. That was the 15th, so it was about 3 odd days ago. Male players were slapped with 1,517 fines compared to 535 fines for women, or for females, according to data compiled by officials at Grand Slam tournaments for the period covering 1998 to 2018. So there you go. It clearly shows Serena Williams was talking out of her fat backside. She knows nothing. She doesn't know really the game of tennis, the rules. That's why you've got the umpire. She's there to play the game and to follow the rules of the umpire. But Serena Williams sees herself as bigger than that. She's bigger than the game of tennis, bigger than the men's game. Even though figures show that the men's circuit gets more viewership than the women do, gets more money coming in than the women do. Male players were, so we've gone through that. The figures obtained by the Times show that men received 649 fines for breaking rackets to 99 for women in tens of thousands of matches in the 4 Grand Slams over the last 2 decades. So you see, Serena Williams is a nonsense, and she just lies. She wasn't winning the argument. She was getting her backside, her substantially fat backside, handed to her by this young girl, and she didn't like it. She thought she could bully her way to winning, because she was desperate for that 24th. By hook or by crook, she was going to get it, but she didn't. Thank goodness. Men were fined 344 times compared to 140 for audible obscenity, and 287 to 67 for unsportsmanlike conduct. So as you can see, there are 3 figures already, and the men are clearly out in front with the infringements and the misconduct and all this kind of business. And yet the dimwit Serena Williams stated that men are not punished at all. What she's really saying, she wants men to be completely punished. In fact, she doesn't even want men to have any matches. She wants the men's game to be shut down, and that there's only women's tennis. I mean, that alone, I would hope there would just be a boycott. That nobody, certainly men, would not go to it or watch that women's tennis. You know, but she's just nonsense to say, and she's been proven wrong by the New York Times when she says, and that men don't. Saying a statement that men don't get penalised. I mean, when you see the video of her, she was just a disgusting, vile baby, naggy, whiny. This was she just. It's been said time and time again. And it's already been said. She was just disgusting. A really whiny. I mean, it was never seen anything like it. Not even McEnroe, who everybody hated back in the day. I mean, that's the reason why all these rules are brought in. I hated McEnroe. I disliked him. In fact, it's taken me a long time to get anywhere near liking McEnroe. Because of his antics. He was a fantastic player, and I grudgingly had to take that on board. But I still didn't like him. I still didn't like his bratty behaviour, And there was a time when I was hoping that Connors was going to clock him. You see, there's a video of him. Connors steps over the net, climbs over the net, and walks up to McEnroe and gets into his face. And then McEnroe but McEnroe pushes him back because he wasn't, he didn't take any notices from him. But I was hoping that Connors was gonna smack him, but he didn't. People didn't like McEnroe. He wasn't lauded. He was called a baby. There was all depictions of him as an idiot. The whole shebang. And during his career, he has been fined. I think it's either between $65,000 to $70,000. The other guy, the Greek guy from Australia, the newish guy, he's been fined over $100,000 for the nonsense that he's gone through, and he's not been on the scene that long. So, people are quietly bringing out these figures, but the thing that I've noticed, they're not bringing them out enough. They're not saying, "Oi, here are the figures. You're talking nonsense, you feminist. You're talking nonsense." But she will not agree because she's Serena Williams and she's bigger than the game. So, and then it goes on. She called him a thief, a liar, blah blah blah, disgraceful behaviour. And it goes, "Because I'm a woman, you are going to take this away from me." Did you hear that? So this is the point that she's making. She was wanting so badly that 24th that if she had to get it by cheating, she was going to get it by cheating or by trying to forcefully bully the umpire to overturn the decision. That's what she was trying to do. And that's what she said to the tournament referee. That's not right. That's not right. The way she was going on to, the crocodile tears. In the post-match news conference, again, she doubled down on their claim there is a double standard when it comes to punishment. As I said before, this double standard would be got rid of if only the women officiate women's tennis and the men only officiate men. Period. Because I'm telling you now that if the WTA think that this is good for their game, when you get someone like Serena Williams that can talk complete and total nonsense, they need to be in charge of their game. They need to make sure that they completely and totally punish Serena Williams properly. She's not in charge of the game. Because obviously what they're worried about is, one, the racism aspect, but the most important thing, because this is the reason why Serena said what she said. She could not get the race card out because there was a mixed race girl there. So she had to bring out the sexism. And with her bringing out the sexism, that completely fused her mind with the rest of the lesbo, nasty feminists out there together. They are all linked together. That's why, what's her name? Billie Jean King said what she was. She's a feminist and she's an old hag. She's an has-been. And she said what she said because she's, I said before, she's a feminist. So whenever the magic word sexism and feminists, regardless of who is right or wrong, will always side with the woman. Period. They will always side with the woman. So in order to cure this problem, they need to split the sport. But you know what? It ain't going to happen. Because the Women's Tennis Association can look at golf and they can look at soccer and they can see that when sports are completely separated, men's and women's, the women don't fare well because people stop going to watch the games. Look at the WNBA. Prime example. I think it's growing slowly. Okay, because especially with some of the players now that abusing the men from the NBA by coming up with silly things like, I think one of the women said that LeBron has got getting 134. That's nice. We're just trying to get an M, which is a million in our game. Just let me get back in my lane type of nonsense. I mean, what's LeBron got to do with her? She's in her sport that should be promoting her game. Her sport had massive coverage when it first started, but it tapered off because it was rubbish. It wasn't very good. And still to this day, it's still rubbish in comparison to the men's game. And yet, she thinks that she should be getting $1 million because what? She's a sports person. She's in the sports. It wasn't long ago that sports people didn't get an awful lot of money. They played it as an amateur sport and they got expenses to cover, a bit of travels, food, little bits and pieces like that. Now, the money that the sports makes, like basketball gives literally 50% of the money that they make out of the 7.4 billion. The players get that money. The women are saying who are earning what 60 million. 60 million. There are some stars who earn far more than that per year. One star. Dave Chappelle, 50 grand, 50 million. And yet the whole of their league, the women's WNBA, earn, I think, up to 60 million. And out of that, probably as well, the NBA gives them 12 million. So if that's included in the 60 million, that's for them shocking. Shocking. So the women have to write off the NBA by insulting them, and where they believe that they should be getting some equal pay to the men. How can they be paid 50% when they're getting 20% when their game is not making that money? Where are they going to get the 30% from? Hold on a minute. From the NBA. They're already getting 12 million of the men's money that they have earned and handing over to women. Extraordinary. Wasn't it long ago that women were complaining that they used to work and they would get less than their male counterparts? Now they're doing less work and they're still expecting their male counterparts to pay them. Because they're earning less money in the game that they're playing, which nobody at the moment is watching. They're getting sponsorship. They're getting put onto TV. They're not, and still, some of these women are complaining that they only get they're trying to hand out, even when they're trying to give out tickets and nobody wants them. $10 tickets. Nobody's buying. So this is the problem with America and American women. This is about American women as well. The attitude of American women. And I feel that American women will destroy America. They will destroy America. America's time will be up. China will take over. America will only be the land of entertainment. Pure. It's money. It will have very little influence. The influence it will receive will be from China. And then the feminist nonsense will be stamped out. The feminist nonsense will be stamped out, just like they do in Russia. Because there is no need for feminism. There's one place in the, I can't remember, where there are the 40% of scientists are women, more than in the West. 40% of scientists are women. Yet in the West, it's far less. I think it's about, I don't know, 10% or less than that. Less than that, or are scientists. Yet they have far, far more freedom here to talk nonsense. Anyway, let's carry on. Oh, listen to. I mean, people have seen this already, but it needs to be said again and to be savoured. I have seen other men call other umpires several things. Really, what are those several things? We don't know. I'm here. I am here fighting for women's rights. What are you talking about? What's that? This is the problem when you get uneducated, dumb feminists. And she's one of those. And women's equality. And for me to say faith, which is disrespectful, shows you weren't brought up in a correct manner, because all your parents were bothered about was just making money. They're desperate to make the money. So they didn't care about how they brought you up from the point of view of decency, common decency. It was, you just need to fight your way in and make sure you make us that money. And for him to take a game, it made me feel like it was sexist. To this moment, I cannot understand what the fuck she is talking about. Can't understand it. I do not understand that statement. For him to take a game, it made me feel like it was sexist. There's two women on the court. Another woman of colour. There are other women with common sense cannot understand what she's talking about, and they're women. So if they can't understand, well, how am I expected to understand as a male what nonsense she's talking about? Is it this intersectional nonsense? I think this was coined by black feminists, intersectionality. I think it. I mean, is it that? I mean, God Almighty. The word overreach, massively overreached, is what she's done. He's never took a game from a man because they said faith. For me, it blows my mind. Well, if a male person has never called him a thief, then he wouldn't have taken a game from him. Logical, isn't it? So she smashed her racket and threatened to make sure that the Portuguese umpire never worked another match of hers again. She's extraordinarily, unbelievably arrogant. I think that the tennis association fined her the 17,000, but they need to really look at that. That threat is just unbelievable for her to be threatening that. She needs to be, I think she should have got a ban, a 2-match ban for that. That's extraordinary. And then, I mean, you are the liar. When are you gonna give me my apology? Apologize to me. Apologize to me. That bit was, well, unbelievable arrogance. When are you going to give me my apology? Oh, it's so funny. It really is. And you sit there. It's like something out of Monty Python. You sit there and you're just watching this demented, hysterical numpty telling him to get, I want my apology. Apologize to me. Apologize to me now. You owe me an apology. So go on, say you're sorry. Go on, say you're sorry. Oh, it's so funny. Honestly, it really is. She's just demented. The incident led to scores of Williams supporters. Yep, the lunatics, SJW, leftist twats, have all come running to her defence, but also to widespread criticism, especially on social media, of the Muppet. Sorry, of the 23-time Grand Slam Muppet. Sorry, winner. Williams. So she got a code violation for coaching, which women have received 152 fines compared to 87 during the 20 years. So clearly what that says is that the coaches believe that the women need to be coached more because, quite frankly, their game is seriously poor, and they need that extra coaching to try and help them win. Because if you look at the men, it's 87. And also try and make the game a little bit more exciting. One factor in the disparity in the data, I can't say it, in the data is that men play best of 5 set matches in Grand Slam events, while women play best of 3. There you go. But still, the women were bitching and bitching and bitching at Wimbledon, who eventually caved in to pay women the same money as the men, even though Wimbledon clearly stated that it was done on a calculated formula. That from the point of view of the women played the men, women played 3 sets and the men played 5. So they calculated the prize money based on that. So it was accurate. The women weren't having any of it. I think a woman in Scotland, when it was in Wimbledon, paid the so-called difference. So even though they showed the graph, they showed the calculations, that it wasn't unfair, it was actually fair, because the amount of work that they do, they still weren't having it. So I think at the time it was 700,000 the men were getting, the women were getting something like 600 something. I can't remember, it was or less than that. So now the women get 700,000 or 1 million, the men get 1 million, yet the men play 5 sets, the women play 3 sets. Equality, real equality. Yet men and women are the same. There's no difference. Billie Jean King has said in the past that they need to reduce the amount of sets that the men play to 3 sets. That tells me, I think, that the women are now certainly showing, feeling a little bit embarrassed that in order for that to go away, but also to make some point that the men's game is boring because they play 5 sets, and the women's game is far more dynamic, quicker, faster because they play 3 sets. But everybody knows that if Serena Williams had to play 5 sets against many of these girls, many of them will probably beat her. It's because they're playing 3 sets, she's winning. She's much more powerful than these other players. But her bulk, if she was playing the 5 sets, she would, look, the top 20 women, or at least the top 5 to 10, would definitely beat her every single time. Every single time. So anyway, so this was not the first time Williams has had a meltdown at the US Open. In 2009, Williams refused to apologise after threatening to shove a ball down a lineswoman's throat in an explosive-laden outburst. She refused, and she eventually got disqualified. So she lost that to Kim Clijsters. So people, then I think people were quite happy with that, because but it just goes to show you she's a liar. She consistently lies and just tells stories. Just nonsense. Earlier this year, at the Indian Wells tournament, Williams berated a female reporter in the Players' Lounge area for asking a question at a news conference about therapeutic use exemptions. One Australian commentator took issue with Williams' claim. She took issues to Williams' claim. Sorry, I'll read that again, because obviously she's doing a terrible disservice to women's rights. Oh, God, here we go. To the Me Too movement, to gender equality. Caroline Wilson of the Australian Broadcasting Company said. To say she's fighting for women's rights when what she is a bad sport. Well, good. I mean, that's the point. She's a bad sport. She's an embarrassment, and to be honest with you, she needs to apologise. If she's not careful, this will taint her. I mean, it's already tainted her forever. But if she was to come out and to a conference and say, "I'm sorry for what I did. I've looked over the tapes," but she'd have to be genuine. I've looked over, and I now fully understand the rules, and I apologise to Osaka for overshadowing, her win. But it ain't going to happen. Not from her. No. If men do certain things, I mean, look at Novak Djokovic, when there was something said about the guy he retired, and he was in his 70s anyway. I think he was a coach, and he said something about women's tennis, that if it wasn't for the men's game, that women should be on their knees praising the men's game, because they wouldn't be making the kind of money they're making at the moment. And he promptly retired, but Djokovic agreed with him, and then he had to come out with an apology, to apologise for what he said, but because he agreed with him. So you can't agree with anybody. You can't tell what is the truth, even though the data shows that the men's game is still getting more audience than the women's game. Simple as that. So that's my view on it. The data shows that what she said was complete and total nonsense. And all geezers out there, make sure you get the data every single time. Video anything to do with these feminist evil characters, because there are guys going to prison today because of evil, illogical feminists. It's a serious matter. It really is. Anyway, thanks for listening.